Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Music and Tech. This is Kevin, and for today we're going to talk about setting up your Ableton digital audio workstation. So in order to do that, you need to have a PC at the minimum and your software. If you want to make your audio like have a richer sound, then you need an audio interface. Then in order to monitor your recording, you need a headset at the minimum or a monitor speaker. I have prepared a video just to show you how I connected these parts of my digital audio workstation so that my Ableton would work. So if I will play that, so this is my setup. I have my PC here. I have my monitor speaker, and then my audio interface. Going back to my PC, you would see that I have two USB connections. The white cable would go to the audio interface. So if we will trace that, the line would go behind my notebook, then behind my monitor speaker, and then plugged into my audio interface. This connection would provide the power to the audio interface and would allow data or audio transmission between the audio interface and the PC. Going back to my PC, on the right there's another USB cable connected. This one would go to my digital piano. So if I'm going to play with my piano, then the sound would be transmitted from the piano to the PC. On my audio interface in front, there's an XLR cable connected. This cable is connected to the microphone, so any vocals that I'm doing, it will be transmitted to the audio interface, then it would go to the PC. Then behind my audio interface, there would be two connections, the red and white cables. This one is an audio output going to my monitor speaker from my audio interface. Then in front of the audio interface, there's another connection in front there. This one would connect to my transmitter of my wireless headset. So it's also for monitoring the recording using your headset. So that's about it. That's the overview of my setup for my Ableton digital audio workstation. Just one thing to take note. It is very important that once your Ableton is open, you should not and never disconnect your audio interface, especially when you're playing live. If you do that, the audio or the Ableton will freeze, it will hang, then you will be unable to play anything on the Ableton. So I have experienced that before, and what I did was for my PC, the USB connection for the audio interface is a bit loose. So just a slight touch of that cable, somehow the Ableton or the audio interface will get disconnected and my software will hang or freeze. So usually what I do is that I will tape this USB cable onto something so that it stays in its place and it doesn't get disconnected. So imagine if you're playing live and then somehow it gets touched or the audio interface gets disconnected, then if you're playing with a band, then the keyboard sound will suddenly disappear. The way to close the frozen Ableton will be to press Ctrl-Alt-Delete for Windows PC, and then you have to terminate the software or the application, and then you have to open it up again, and then only then you can start playing. So imagine the time that you will lose from the time it freezes until the time you open it up, and there will be a large time gap from the last time you played until you resume playing. So just to take note, this is very important. Okay, to set up your workstation, first of all, you need the computer. And according to Ableton, if you would search into their website, here's the minimum requirements for your PC or your MacBook. I would just focus on the OS, the processor, and the memory. If you're going to use Live 11, you would need Windows 10, i5 processor, and then an 8 gig of memory. For the MacBook, you need an OS of at least 10.13 to Monterey 12, an i5 processor, and then an 8 gigs of memory. So I'm using Live 10 for my software. I can use Windows 7 or 8, but for me, I'm using Windows 10. You need at least 4 gigs of memory and then an i5 processor. And then for the MacBook, you need at a minimum the OS, El Capitan, or Monterey, and then Intel Core of dual processor, i5 to i5 processor, and then 4 gigs of memory. Then if you would just scroll up in the website, you would see that there's a note here that says, while these are the absolute minimum requirements need to run live, you may need higher specifications to work most efficiently. So meaning, if you are going to use your Ableton with heavy CPU load, then it's better to have a higher specification other than stated here. So for me, when I purchased my notebook, what I bought was an i7 core, and then I have a memory of 24 gigs. But yes, it improved and I can use heavier loads, but I have still experienced audio dropouts, and there were so many times I experienced it, and I have tried troubleshooting it for so many times, many researches, trying to figure out what's wrong, what I can do. And in my future videos, I'm going to tell every one of you what are the things that you can do to avoid audio dropouts. Basically, audio dropouts are those when you're playing, suddenly the sound from your keyboards, for example, crackles, or you just suddenly stop hearing the music that you're playing from your keyboards, for example. So those are audio dropouts. So moving on, in order to install Live, you need to have an account in Ableton. So you have to register, and that is for free. And then if you're still undecided to purchase the Ableton software, you can try using the trial version, which is available for 90 days for you to try. You can enjoy the full suite version when you try the trial version, but the only downside is that after you have completed your trial version, and then you have to install again the Ableton Live software, because you cannot just upgrade the trial version. So once you have your account, you can just go to shop, and then click buy now. So if it's your first time to buy the Ableton software, you would see it here to purchase the Ableton Live 11 Intro, or Ableton Live 11 Standard, or Ableton Live 11 Suite. So I have mentioned these 3 types of software in my first video. You can take a look at that in the link below that I will give, and then you can see what's the difference for that. Actually, you can even search it here in Ableton, what's the differences of these three. So basically this one is for just to try it out. There's so many functionalities that are missing. For Ableton Live Standard, again, additional features are added, but it's not the full version. There's some functionalities that are missing, and the full suite, you would be able to enjoy all the functionalities of Ableton. So for my screen, you can see that I don't have the like the download version, or I mean the full suite, because I have already my Live 10 installed. So what you can see is an upgrade version. So if you're using already like Live 10, you can just upgrade it to Live 11, and you only have to pay $159. And then if you're going to upgrade to the suite version, then you have to pay $229. If you're going to install it for the first time, if you're going to buy the license for the first time for the suite, if I remember correctly, it's somewhere around $800 plus. So once you have purchased that, you can go to your account, and then you can download the software. Then once you have downloaded the software, you can run the installation. And after the installation is complete, you have to input your serial number to complete the registration of your license. So the license can be found here. But I will not open this page because you would see my license, and for obvious reasons I cannot do that. So after you have installed your Ableton, you can even buy those additional packs that you can find in Ableton, like these ones. So I leave it up to you to research what are these. But this is something that you can further upgrade your Ableton Live Suite. So another software or another driver that you would need if you're a Windows user is the ASIO driver. This ASIO driver is the one that would allow your PC and the audio interface from transmitting digital audio or analog audio between the two of them. So you would need to install this as well. So I have downloaded my ASIO driver from this website, ASIO for All, softonic.com. Then you just click, then install the driver. So after you have installed both, then we move to your installation of the audio interface if you're going to use that. So for my audio interface, I bought the Roland Quadcaster. In the package, it contains the CD installer. So what you need to do is don't plug yet your audio interface via USB onto the PC. Insert the CD installer first, and then run the installation program. Then after installing halfway, the installer will prompt you to connect the audio interface onto your PC. Once that is connected, then just complete the installation. So once that's done, you open your Ableton. Okay. And the first thing that you need to do is to go to Preferences. So you click Options, Preferences. Okay. So we will just discuss for this video, audio and MIDI settings. The others we can discuss in a later time or in future videos. And one thing of particular interest is these plugins. So going back to the audio tab, so if you use this driver, chances are there will be it will not detect your audio interface. So for me, I would select ASIO because I have an audio interface. But if you don't have, or if you're not using an audio interface, just select this, and the audio will be coming out of your PC speaker. And then after selecting your driver type, then you have to select your audio interface. For me, I'm using the quadcopter, so I would select that. But if you're using this one, then you don't need to select an audio device, because again, the sound will be coming from your PC. Click on to input configuration. So my audio interface has 4 inputs, so I need to enable mono inputs 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and stereo inputs 1, 2, 3 and 4. So if you have an audio interface that has more inputs and outputs, then you have to select all of those, or you can select those that you want to use. Then it's the same for output configuration. Just select all, because I'm using 4 inputs and outputs. Hardware setup. This one will bring you to the control panel for your audio interface. Yeah, so you will see my sample rate. It is at 44.1 kilohertz. You can increase that, or you can decrease that. Usually I don't touch these things, but one thing to take note is my sample rate would be the same as my settings in my Ableton. So if you're going to see, this one is grayed out because I've already set in my hardware that I'm going to use 44.1 kilohertz. But if you want to change your setting in Ableton, then you have to adjust it here. Then this one will change as well. One thing to take note is, because the higher that you increase your sample rate, somehow it will increase the CPU load. That would be here. That's why I just keep it to 44.1 kilohertz so that the audio quality is good enough without sacrificing too much CPU load. And then for buffer size, this one would contribute to the latency of your software and your sound. So for me, I just keep it at 256 samples. So again, it's grayed out because you can adjust these things in your hardware. Then we go to the MIDI tab. So if you would see my control surface, before I have used the Innovation Launch Control XL, and then anyway, somehow these Ableton has kept that in memory. I've used before MK2 as well. Somehow it just stays there even though I'm not using it. And then currently my Roland digital piano is connected to Ableton. That's why you can see it here. And then from previous times I have used a different Roland piano and even a Yamaha digital keyboard. So it's still here, kept in its memory. Then output would be the quadcopter if I'm using these combinations. Then you have to switch on your input for quadcopter. This one somehow is still kept there. For your Roland digital piano, then output for your launch control. So after those are set, you can start playing. So for example, I'm going to select an instrument. So just click Instrument, and then From here, you can see that the instrument rack, you can look for the patch that you want to play, either it's bass, brass, effects, exotic, oh, I haven't used that, guitar, mallets, pads, percussives, piano and keys. What else is here? Let me see. Strings, synth keys, synth lead, synth rim, then they have voices and winds, and some other things that you can choose from. So for today, I'm going to select the piano. So you just drag it here, or double click, and then enable in or input, and then make sure that this one is turned on. So let's try to play. So that's it. So that's a sample of me playing an instrument using Ableton Live. This one is very useful because, for example, you want a specific sound of your piano, then you're going to play in church, then the piano that you have there doesn't have the sound that you are looking for. So you can just preset it, preset your sound in your Ableton, bring the laptop over to church, connect the Ableton to your piano, and then select the piano in your Ableton. Then you have to mute your digital piano at church. Then the sound that would come out will be coming from Ableton instead of your digital piano. So that's the advantage of using Ableton. You can pre-select or select beforehand what's the patch that you're going to use before coming to the place that you're going to play. And then you can even set up so many other things like tracks and other patches that you can use while you're playing or your live performance. Yeah, so I think that's about it. I hope that you find my video useful. If you like the video, please click like. And if you want to see future videos from my channel, then you can click subscribe. So again, I hope that you would watch my future videos because I really intend to help you guys in learning how to use this software because it's a very powerful tool. And I hope that I can help you like immediately learn it, how to use it, and so that you can play seamlessly when you're playing live. So again, have a good day everyone. Peace out.